Hey guys, welcome back to the fourth video where we're talking about intensity, focus, color, and beam, and jumping in the visualizer and showing you some really cool stuff we can do. And so in this last video, we're going to talk about beam, and I'm focusing on gobos in the moving lights because we're not using haze in these examples, and so we don't have the beams visible from all the lights up on our truss. We can see the beams across the ceiling from these ceiling lights, but we're going to focus on the gobos and the different kind of patterns you can get from gobos to change the way that things look throughout your service. And so the first thing I want to show you is I just wanted to set things up here and have the stage with the gobos on the band so we could see them real good. And I just want to show you a couple. Now, this is the gobo we've been showing you the whole time. And then here's another pattern. It's a little bit different of a pattern. And you've noticed this whole time I've put the frost in or put it out of focus. You know, they do similar things, and depending on what light you have, one may look better than the other. And what this does, sorry to get ahead of myself there, but what bringing these gobos out of focus does is it makes the pattern more like a texture and less of, you know, a hard edge pattern, which we'll see in a minute here. But oftentimes in churches and when we're doing worship, those hard edge patterns are just a little much. They overdo it a little. There's places where you can definitely use them, but for the most part, when I'm doing lights for church service, I stick to pretty soft gobos to keep things pretty fresh. So here is another gobo. And this one's a little funky, but again, you blur it out and it just becomes a texture. And then one of the awesome things that we can do is rotate, as you can see. And we can rotate gobos in a lot of fixtures. Some fixtures, some movers, you'll have to look out for this because some of them have gobos that don't rotate and some have gobos that do rotate. And many, like this Rogue, the Chauvet Rogue R2 spot, has a wheel of gobos that's a set of them that does rotate and a wheel that does not. So there's half and half there. And so you got to watch out for that. And, you know, giving that rotation just really allows you to match the energy on stage. And this is one of those subtle ways, like we were talking about with color, that you can create movement. You can use effects to create that movement in your service, but not have it be distracting or over the top, because there's a lot of times where you just need a little bit of movement, and this is that time. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the prism. We've had the prism in the whole time here, but we're going to pop it out. And as you can see, when you pop out the prism, and I switched to a different gobo because that one was just funky, you see there's only one circle pattern coming out of the light. And so what the prism does is it allows us, it's really just a mirror, basically, a different 4 or 5-sided mirror, or 3-sided. In this case, it's a 5-sided mirror in each light. Different lights have different prisms that have a different amount of facets, as they're called. But what the prism does is it scatters the light, and it allows you to cover a bigger space and make the light look abstract more easily. And so we're able to use the prism to do that. One word of caution, though, is if your movers aren't very bright, you may not be able to get away with using the prism and still be able to see the light that's coming out of the fixture. So keep that in mind as well. Just play with it if you got the prism functionality. And one of the other cool things that prisms can do, which we're not going to do here because my visualizer can't do it, is they rotate. And I can't remember if this light that I have doesn't have a rotating prism or if this visualizer can't do it. But imagine all these circles that are spinning right now, we're also rotating this way as a whole. That's pretty cool. And so if you got a fixture where the prism can rotate, that's a way that you can use beam to do some really cool stuff. Now, to wrap all of this up, because that's beam, these attributes are building blocks. And so we need to remember that as we look through these videos and we see intensity, and through intensity, we're bringing lights up and down, having some parts of the stage brighter than others, which creates focus. Then we got lights that are moving, lights that are off, lights that are on. Then we got color, where we got these lights are this color, these lights are this color, and those lights over there are that color. And then we got beam, where we get these textures come into play. And they're all building blocks. So while they're interesting on their own, and you can certainly use intensity on its own, you can use focus on its own, you can use color on its own, and you can use beam on its own, you can use them together as well. So you can use intensity with color, having some lights lower than others, or some lights off and some on, and then have different colors. You can use focus and color. You can use focus and intensity. You can use beam and color. And of course, you can use all four of them together. And so this is the place where I really encourage you to, even if you only have a few lights, to really experiment with it. Experiment with what you can do with lighting and with different things there, and so that you can really have just a really dynamic service. That's what it's all about, is just echoing the message that's coming from the stage, and then being able to really keep things fresh and keep things from getting boring, to help keep people engaged. Not that the people on stage are boring. I'm not saying that. They might be, but they're probably not. But we can use lighting to create interest and to keep people engaged and to help people remember what they've heard. And that's really what it comes down to. And that's why all this design stuff is a big deal. And I talk about it so much, is because it's just, when you get your design right, and when you use these principles of design, this intensity, focus, color, and beam, you can really get going. And so I hope I didn't overwhelm all y'all. But in the next lesson, we're going to talk about programming and playback. And I'm really excited to bring this to you guys, because we're going to talk about some different ways you can program your service and have volunteers able to play stuff back. Or maybe you program and run it, or maybe you volunteers do programming and running it. And so I want to walk you through some common different ways that we can do that, and some different approaches that we can use to have more or less flexibility or ease of use. And so definitely we'll see you guys over there in the next lesson. Until then, keep lighting and keep enjoying the church lighting game plan. Thanks, guys.